Welcome to the Here to Be Heard podcast. This series is part of the larger Here to Be Heard global study at Mars to amplify and listen to the voices of women from all backgrounds and intersections of society. In the world we want tomorrow, society is inclusive. Progress has been made, but there's still work to do. In this series, you'll hear the unique experiences of women of Mars who come from all parts of our business to get their perspective on what needs to change for women to reach their full potential. My name is Jessica Adelman, and I'll be your host for this episode. I'm a vice president of corporate affairs at Mars and have been with the company since June of 2020, so a relative newcomer. With me today are Laura Millan and Catrena Slaughter. Laura is acting director of Mars Wrigley Research and Development for Latin America North. And Catrena is head of security architecture in our digital technology group. They are both incredibly accomplished women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. But Catrena and Laura, let's turn it over to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. And let's start with Catrena. Please tell our guests how long you've been with Mars and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for asking here. So I've been with Mars for 2 years now. It feels like quite a bit of time, but I'm originally from Detroit. So I grew up in the inner city. Always had, some desire to see a product out there and feel like I had, impact on it. And it was just like really the little glimpse of exposure that I got just from watching a Lifetime network television show that I got my interest in learning more about technology and leading in technology. And at that time, actually, technology for me was really engineering. So I actually, went down that route originally. And just by exploring, through that exposure, I was able to navigate and become who I am today. So I'm a mom of two and a wife. And I do say I'm a mom tech trailblazer. I do take it personal in terms of being a mom. And I'm glad to be a woman and be a beacon for others to live their passion.
Great. Thank you so much, Catrena. Laura, now over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you've ended up here with us today at Mars.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm so excited to be here and to have the opportunity to share a bit of myself with everybody. So I'm Laura Millan. Mexico. I was born in Mexico, and I still live here. I've been in Mars for 16 years, actually. So always in R&D. And as you can see, I love everything around technology, and I study food chemist. So that's really interesting thing for me because everybody, when I say that, everybody thinks that probably I am a very good cooker, but that's not reality. So I'm more into the science part. And well, I'm so excited to share about a little bit of me and talk about this interesting topic.
Great. Well, since we're on that, Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into food chemistry and what was it like telling your family that's what you wanted to be?
Yeah, that was really interesting because probably for my family it was a kind of shock when I told them that I want to be a food chemistry. They thought that I probably will be like a lawyer or like a doctor, but never something like that. And actually, they said, "What is that?" We don't really know that. But I really love the science. I really love to understand how the things work. And when you go deeply and deeply and understand how the moleculars and the atoms work within an environment like in a food, you never thought that probably a food could be, something made with many science or a lot of science.
Great, thank you. Catrena, let's talk a little bit about how you advocate for STEM exposure and career development in underrepresented communities outside of work. Just share a little bit about that work and why it motivates you to ensure that you are never the last. I heard you say you were the first amongst your crowd to get really into technology, but how do you do that work to make sure that you're not the last?
Yeah, it's extremely important. As I mentioned, it was like the little bit of exposure that helped me identify my passion for technology. And sometimes coming from these underrepresented communities, again, I grew up in the inner city. We didn't necessarily have a lot of people that were going into business, into technology, and even today, someone asked me like, "How did you think you're going to be the head of security architecture?" I probably couldn't tell you back then that this job even exists. So it is my passion. Like outside of work, I'm doing a mentoring cohort with the Women in Cybersecurity organization. It's a national organization focused on helping women grow their careers in cyber. I also take time to make sure that I participate in whether it's mock interview days with youth in colleges or even in high school, trying to let them know about these type of career paths and opportunities that may exist. Because that little glimpse of exposure and conversation can really change someone's life. By knowing that it exists, actually creates a path for folks to do that. And sometimes when you grow up in some of these areas where you don't have a lot of that exposure, you don't know that those opportunities exist. So my passion is doing just that, is to be a beacon. And then also when I'm actually performing in my jobs, I try to do my best to make sure that I create that exposure and that possibility that if you are giving the opportunity, there is definitely great opportunities for women to show up and perform well in a workplace. And I think those little acts of personal commitment and drive is what will help increase the diversity of women and also underrepresented minorities in the field of technology.
Great. Over the course of your career, Catrena, have you seen positive change for women in your field and other fields?
Yeah, I have been seeing some improvement. In fact, I'm very proud at Mars. We actually just started this cohort of Women of Digital Mars, which I was selected to be one of the founding members, and it really showed that the organization has a commitment to develop the future pipeline of leaders, especially women leaders. And I've seen these acts through, our establishments of ERGs, which I've been a part of, trying to identify. It's not just saying diversity, but it's trying to understand what actions we need to take to make sure that we really create an inclusive workforce. And I have been a beneficiary of a lot of those actions because, again, if you don't come from these elaborate backgrounds, it may just be those actions, whether it's making sure that we have bias training in interview panels, or making sure that we have, coaching and mentoring opportunities available for women or for minorities or those who may be seeking those type of things. Are really helping to make a difference. And I feel like I have been able to excel further even in my career by taking advantage of, those resources and actions and commitments through the companies that I've worked for, especially at Mars, to make sure that we create that inclusive workplace.
Great. Laura, I'd love to understand a little bit about what you've seen over the course of your career and how you've seen positive change around the environment for women and supporting women in STEM.
What I see also in the corporative world every day, I see and I have actually many friends that are being part of the leadership team currently, delivering conferences, being entrepreneurs, launching their own businesses, etc. And I think that we are moving towards of having a better world where women can express their full potential, but definitely there's still a lot of work to do on that. So I think we are towards that. I'm so happy that Mars is now really into it, committed to do something different. And I'm for sure that all the information that Mars is going to gather is going to help to do something different.
Wonderful. I would love to double click on something that you said earlier in this discussion, which is, around some of your personal choices. So if it's all right, I'd like to go a little bit more personal and talk about your choice to not be a mom and how that plays in both your personal and your professional life.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, actually, I have a condition that didn't allow me to do that, actually, that causes infertility. And I remember back in my 20s when I went into a surgery because of that situation, I remember the doctor said in that moment, it's the right moment for you to have a baby. And I was thinking in that moment, yeah, probably physically is the right moment, but I'm not really ready for that. So I decided to wait, even though I thought that, or I knew that that could probably at the end was not going to be possible. And I decided to do that. And at the end, uh, now I'm so happy. That has not really affect my life. I believe in God, and I know that this is for some reason. And I've been able to then use my potential in helping others to grow, in learning new things. So being able to develop myself and grow in the corporative world, and help as much as I can to change the world. So I think that has not been something that affects me, but and also I've been able to use that situation to go deeply in different in other things.
I really appreciate your willingness to share that and to talk so openly with us. I think certainly there are lots of different perceptions or even stereotypes people have of women in the workplace, whether you either do or don't choose to have children. And it's just great to hear your point of view and your experience, because it's one that we don't get as much insight into, or I think people don't talk as openly about. So I'm just really grateful that you were willing to share that with us and with our audiences here today. Catrena, when we talk a bit about, I think your phrase was mom technology trailblazer, that is an assignation you're very proud of. Tell us a little bit about your work-life balance and how you managed to do it all, being super mom and super digital executive.
Yeah, happy to share here. So one of the things I mentioned, like through my career, through workplaces like Mars, I've been afforded some resources. And recently, I talked to a career coach, and it really changed my life in the simple fact of not just thinking about my inside work career, but also my outside work career. Because in order for me to, perform and be my best at Mars, and which is why we were given these resources to figure out how we can help, women fulfill their potential. I then discovered my values. And one of my values is family. I want to be an active mom. I want to, make sure that I help my children find their passion. Again, back to that exposure. So by doing that, one thing that I notice is that, I'm not just driven by, the solutions that I'm able to help and experiences I'm able to help, foster and protect every day, but I'm motivated by my family. So, what I've been doing is, creating, my boundaries, even in the workplace. So, it's not untypical, that, as women, we don't just have one job going to work, but we also have to take care of our families. And I've taken proactive measures to make sure that, I create that space in that balance, whether that's making sure I start my day at a certain time and end my day at a certain time. And through that, I've discovered efficiency. So I would tell you that just because, you don't work all different types of hours of the day, doesn't mean that you're less efficient. I've actually been able to discover that I do have time to work on those very impactful things and continue to be a high performer at what I do, but also fulfill my commitments as a mother and also as a wife. And that could be simple things of, do you need to have that 1 hour meeting to talk about something that can actually occur in 30 minutes? So there's simple things that you start to do when you really nest into your values, and you'll find a way to show up. And in fact, I feel like I'm more motivated and more able to be the leader that I am today, and what I do, because I'm able to strike that balance in the workforce in Mars. And also, I found that by fostering and anchoring on my values, I found acceptance from my peers, from the folks that I lead, and I have not necessarily missed a beat. Nothing has fallen apart. I've actually become a better person and a better leader and a better mother.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, I think it's important that we take a quick pivot here. You all showed up. You're here to be heard today. And this podcast is around the series that we are running as Mars to understand how women can reach their full potential. So I want to ask both of you this important question. And the question is, what needs to change for women to reach their full potential? Catrena, let's start with you.
It's important that we bring our whole selves to work. I encourage us all to find, what drives us, what are our values, and share those openly and share those boldly in the workforce, because those brave acts of action is what's going to pave the way for more women to perform. I think also, as those who are out there who are advocates, embrace those ideas and those ways of working that are maybe not custom to maybe how you will work. Think more openly. And I encourage, women and out there too, to make sure that you are bold enough to really put forth your aspirations and how women may show up in the workplace. But it takes kind of a two-way communication where we also have to be embracing of those and accepting of those changes in the ways of working. But we have to be bold as women to make sure that we can stand on our values and really help drive the change, and not just the change, but drive the shift in the culture that we want to have in our workplaces. And if I can leave one thing, is passion drives performance. Very early on, again, it was that exposure that led me to identify that I had a passion for technology. So we have to create more exposure. And that means that we have to have more representation. So if we can do any single thing, is increase the representation. That representation would then lead to women having the platform to stand on their values and to create these acts and boldly shift the culture in our workplaces.
Catrena, thank you so much for those thoughts. They were really inspiring, and we are grateful to have your point of view. Laura, I'd like to turn over to you and ask you the same question. What needs to change for women to reach their full potential?
In some countries, violence against women is a constant thing. I think, no, I don't think that's true. They are rape, they are abused, and not just physically, but also mentally. And this is unfortunately the case of my own country. So that immediately limits women potential, definitely. So women live afraid going out. The safety part for me is a basic that needs to be fulfilled. So this is one of the things that definitely needs to change in the world. And I could add another thoughts as well. So we as women, we need to support each other's. I recently listened a podcast where that was about a study where they found women prefer male over female bosses. And that was shock for me. And the reason why, or the conclusion, is that female boss, if she feels that, if she feels or sees talent in her direct reports, she diminish them as she feels threatened. And that was something that makes me remember an experience that I have in the past when previously Mars, actually, when I have a line manager female, and she was so mean in that moment and never recognized my achievements. She blamed me and diminished my job. So for me, it was something that makes me quit my job in that moment. And that was something that shocks me, because as a women, we need to support each other. So I think this is also the first thing that needs to change as well. So and probably that comes from the historical part around women and men are different. And no, we are not. We are both human beings. And yes, we could probably have different traits, definitely, but women is able to achieve whatever they want and performs any role that they want to have. So we need to educate all generations around this point, and probably on the first, one of the first places where we can start is within our homes, where I still see that this belief is very well rooted.
Thank you, Laura. I love your point about how empowered women empower other women and this virtual cycle that's possible, which is, I think, one of the most powerful aspects underpinning this campaign overall. Okay, that's a wrap on this episode of the Here to Be Heard podcast series. I want to thank Catrena Slaughter and Laura Millan for joining me today and sharing their life experiences and how we can overcome some of the challenges we face as women. Our hashtag Here to Be Heard campaign is not just for Mars Associates, but for women all over the world. So please visit beheard.mars.com to share your voice and vision for change. Mars will use this data to inform policies and procedures to help women to reach their full potential. And follow hashtag Here to Be Heard on your social channels to stay up to date on the latest news and stories. Don't forget to listen to the next episode of the Here to Be Heard podcast series, where there will be a new host, new guests, and new experiences to be shared. Thanks for listening, and until then, remember, the world we want tomorrow starts with how we do business today.